We're doing a PowerPoint here, non-live. Dan, Bam with you, and there's a number of different things that happened this week that we want to break down. But this is definitely a very violent week to start off the year. We're about to end the month of January in 2023, and we've had more mass shootings in the United States than days in the year 2023. A huge spike, or to say it's a spike is really what's covered, but a lot of police violence as well. Um, we are seeing and getting news out of Memphis for the murder of Tyre Nichols by a bunch of police officers. And yeah, we saw some mass shootings. And I think the narratives around all this stuff are, strange and require a lot of analysis in approaching because in these mass shootings, a number of minority communities were targeted. The one in Monterey Park was at a Lunar New Year celebration. The majority of the victims were Chinese American. But the gunman was also apparently Asian American. And the situation with the cops usually was like, oh, look at these like racist cops and racist police. All five of the police officers, from what I'm understanding, in this recent Memphis case are black. And so this it invites the opportunity to have like a deeper conversation of like it's not just like about race, it's a deeper systemic thing that we've been talking about on the show since we started, that the police as a system and as an institution is something that begets this kind of violence and lets it continue. But yeah, we can I want to get your preliminary thoughts also, Bam, and then we'll play the B-roll and then get some of your thoughts of this as well. And warning as well, as we're playing this video in the background, it's very, very graphic. You're seeing these police officers beat this man, and ultimately he dies from his injuries. So we'll give that caveat there. But I definitely want to know, we were talking about this kind of leading up to it, but I want to get your thoughts, Bam, on this. Another day in America.
Yeah, let's play it.
Yeah, this doesn't have sound necessarily, but you see, two officers, and we didn't show an earlier video. It's not like a murder porn kind of thing, so I don't want to show all the videos. But this began as a traffic stop. Tyre Nichols is pulled out of his car in that video, and the police are kicking him and beating him. Again, he's on the ground. They're telling him to get on the ground. He's already complying by that. But during that first, encounter, Tyre Nichols is able to get up and run away from the police. And so, that kind of saying, like, if the police have to chase you, they're bringing an ass kicking with them. But, yeah.
Also, I want to say this too, because I would imagine that there's a lot of people that will see that footage and think like, oh, maybe he was guilty of something, that's why he resisted, or, why didn't he just comply? And, I feel like maybe a lot of people don't understand how scary it is to be confronted by police officers, especially when you're a black male, and it was at night. So even just getting lights flash behind you is scary enough, but when a police officer approaches your car, you don't know if you're making it home that night. And maybe that would sound like I'm exaggerating, but you don't know what is going to happen, because in this country we've seen so many different things be quote unquote mistaken for a gun, or I thought he was reaching for something. Anything from a cell phone to a slice of pizza has been mistaken for a gun. And even if you're 12 years old in an open carry state with a BB gun, you can be shot and killed by a police officer. So, when we're not seeing this, but when he was taken out of the car and put on the ground, you can just see how terrified he was. A lot of people freeze up in those situations. Like, you have 3, 4, 5 people barking orders at you that it's hard to understand what to do. And it felt like to me that they were wanting him to make mistakes. Like, they would rather be aggressive than to just be like, okay, look, hey, relax. This is the issue. Let's figure it out. They want to be screaming. And honestly, I think that proves itself when we see this video here, actually.
Yeah. I mean, in this, you had a little bit earlier when you were talking. I'll see if I can go back to it, but there's one police officer who, yeah, engages a baton. He walks out. You're seeing him come out from the right here. He engages his baton, starts whipping it out, and then beating with it. This is already when 3 police officers have Nichols on the ground here, and then this is the second time they caught up with him. This is essentially neighborhood security camera footage that was set up in Memphis, just again like doors away from Tyre Nichols' mother's house. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, this happened just down the street. He was running home, and in the parts of the video that I frankly don't have the heart to reproduce on the show right now, he's crying for his mother. He's asking for help for his mother. And yeah, there's also, she was on Democracy Now! Earlier today with Benjamin Crump, because, of course, and yeah, she was just talking about, the same way a distraught mom would be talking about their son in this way. It's stuff you see in America a lot, and especially when you see, at least for me, and we've talked about this before, Bam, there's an ability, especially as a black man, to kind of insert yourself or think about yourself or at least others you care about in these situations, and you're like, yeah, that's someone's mom. It could be my mom crying over my death. That is it's really rough out there. And yeah, all those police officers are black, or at least the ones who are doing the majority of the beating here.
And honestly, not surprised. I think, anybody that knows what's up, you're not going to get treated better by some black cop. You might get treated worse, to be honest with you.
That's the classic lyric from Fuck the Police, right? Black police showing out for the white cop. That's that is often the trope too, that almost that sort of sexist trope, okay, if you're a woman in the workplace, you almost have to work, and especially in a workplace dominated by men, it seems like you're already starting a step behind, and so you have to overprove yourself. The same thing, kind of a similar thing, has been observed by a lot of black folks in the police department, where it's okay, you have to prove you're not one thug by becoming another thug, essentially.
Yeah. And in this video, they have him stood up, and they're just cocking back and punching him in the face as hard as they can.
Yeah, this is video 2. And video 1, when the first initial traffic stop, they were wailing on him there too. He was just able to get away somehow. In this one, they're beating him far past the point of he's arrested. He's not resisting. He wasn't resisting before, but he's on the ground, he's being pepper sprayed. You can see just even right there, he's struggling, his feet are moving or whatever, but no, he's on the ground, guys are on top of him. He's probably having trouble breathing. Where have we seen that before? And yeah, we know that unfortunately this is some of the last scared hours of Tyre Nichols' life, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, of consciousness for sure. You got somebody stood up, you're holding them, and you literally see the police officer cocking back as hard as he can and punching them in the face multiple times.
Multiple police officers too.
Yeah, and then you got somebody on the ground and you are just beating him as hard as you can. When people see that, that's it's personal. You're beating this person like they did something to you. And, and I think that's why I and others, we refer to the police officers as a gang. This is how gangs operate.
Yeah, this is getting put on, right? Yeah.
Well, even worse than that, because they have some compassion for you. They're literally we caught an op and we're gonna beat him to an inch of his life. And look at this, he's trying so hard to kick him in the face. And I've seen videos where cops do this to women,
without batting an eye. Yeah, throwing people.
No question. I've seen a video of a cop on a beach. The girl's in a bikini. He's punching her in the face. they act like that. They get violent. Like it's so quick for them to react and just like go into this rage of, yeah, it's not policing anymore. It's just we want to beat somebody up. And I have to believe that these police officers, these 5 or 4 guys, saw a black young dude and were like, yeah, we're gonna prove it. We're gonna show that we're not gonna be like giving these guys a pass. And they did it, and now they're gonna pay for it, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, they're much more like winning battles, I say, like things you could do better, more optimistically with your time than being in America and trying to get accountability for a police killing. That's oftentimes the exception rather than the rule of what happens. And, even getting it to be called murder, even, is something that a lot of, when we get to like a legal context, like sometimes they just completely skip around that and aren't really able to even use that word. But yeah, this is going to, of course, it's going to, in the lead up to the body camera footage being released, I guess this is just the world now. They're like, okay, Memphis is going to release the footage at 5 Eastern or, 2 Pacific. People are going to see it. And then all the, like, basically police all across the country now are just like on high alert because because people are going to protest. Like, the reaction, I'm struggling for my words because we've just done this so often, and it's like a little bit, it more than covering a lot of different things, it takes a lot of like emotional effort and energy to do because of the subject matter. But they are, if this feels cyclical and cops are preparing for people to go onto the streets and like protest and do all this stuff, why? Again, like, is there a point here? Is that, but like, no, you'll have, and a theme throughout other segments that we're doing today will be like, cop defenders run amok, and they'll say, well, nope, he was resisting arrest. No, he was running around. Well, hey, they found drugs in his car. They found drugs in his system, or he was acting frantically and resisting. Like the cousin of one of the Black Lives Matter founders was killed by police and LAPD just in the beginning of this month, right? And immediately the cop pages were like, he had just got into a car accident, or was like, apparently had stolen a car, and he was all like, had drugs in his system, and so he was acting all like antsy and wasn't listening to cops, and so like he kind of had it coming. So like, of course there are those narratives. I even hear one of the helicopters flying above me as we speak. But yeah, man,
It's when these things happen, like, why aren't we seeing the police officers protesting? Like, if you guys have such a issue with the public being upset when police officers kill people and do egregious things, if you should feel like these police officers are making you look bad. Like, if there's an unfavorable position towards police officers, it's because of things like this. Why don't you go out and protest and say, hey, like, we got to get it together?
Yeah.
But it's so often that we get excuses and we get, policing is a dangerous job, which it's not. It's
many more dangerous jobs in America than policing.
Yeah, no, I like
cutting wood.
They literally just ride around all day. Like, stop it. It's not that dangerous. Like, is it dangerous for these guys? They were in no danger, and they ended up killing somebody.
This was a traffic stop. And we've talked ad nauseum about questioning the need to bring armed police officers in tactical gear with like every possible weapon to end a life for a supposed and alleged, traffic stop or maybe reckless driving, right? And like, you have the situation under control. The car is stopped. He is no longer driving it. Like, even some police officers, to your point, like, you're not going to get a rush of people like condemning these cops. And I can also see some like racial rush to do that too, because again, they will be thrown under the bus because they are not like certain cops, for sure. Not they did anything right, but you will you'll have these kinds of situations where you'll have these stories, and just the general reaction you'll get from people is that it was justified somehow, or like they were doing the right way. Even if the cops are saying, no, this was not how it's supposed to be done here, they're always going to try to find an excuse. They're always going to try to find a rationale or a reason. And that is, that's how we're in the cycle. Because there's never any, to your point, the bad apples, the few bad apples, they're never a bunch of cops are saying, this was entirely handled wrong. And not only was it handled wrong and we apologize and we're going to, compensate the family or whatever, but we're going to change how we police. That shit never happens. No. All you get is them saying, oh, these damn Democrats, because the progressive DAs, you can't put anyone in jail anymore. Or like all these cops are getting defunded. They're all sad now because they have to air their own tires on their squad cars or whatever, because the 6-figure salary and overtime they're getting just somehow isn't enough. And yeah, you get all the complaints about that. You get all the complaints about, oh, the police got defunded when they got nothing but refunded and overfunded. But you'll never get like a response to this that is, let's change policing strategy. Let's no longer use these kinds of, again, a lot of the Memphis cops who showed up afterwards were not wearing the same kind of like tactical level, like army gear and shit that these gang members essentially that were beating up on this guy were wearing. So you don't need that for traffic stops. That's a tangible policy change that would have definitely helped in the George Floyd situation, or could have helped, and could have definitely helped in this. But yeah, when you bring force when it's not needed, you tend to abuse it because you can.
Yeah, and
at least cops do.
Going back to something you said, like people are going to make excuses like they did in the George Floyd situation. You had Candace Owens making a whole documentary about how that police officer did not kill him, even though he was charged with murder, and all the other police officers that testified against him said, no, he killed him. But we had Candace Owens and Kanye West saying like, oh no, the cop actually didn't kill him. It
was the drugs. He had so many drugs in his system that,
but I'm sure some conservative judge and like all these people said like, no, he killed him. But these fools had to say like, no, he didn't. But also going to what you said about how the police respond to this. Like, I remember being at a George Floyd protest locally, and there were, I want to say it was like 3 police officers like standing on a roof, making sure we didn't get out of line, I guess. And there was a quiet moment, and I shouted up at them, asking them how they felt when they saw the George Floyd video. And they just didn't respond. And I asked 2-3 times, or maybe 3 or 4 times, how did you guys feel when you saw the George Floyd video? Everybody would have been satisfied if they just said, yeah, it was messed up. Like, oh, it wasn't right. Like, we don't need you to go in a whole diatribe. But they just looked at us like we don't care about what you think. And it made the situation that much more tense. And it almost went up because people are like, dude, like, we want to know that you're human. Like, we want to know that you actually care about taking someone's life. You guys are a fraternity. You guys all rock that blue thin line flag. So you, police officer La Mirada, you also speak for what happened, dude, because you all are part of the same thing. The fact that when these things happen, we don't see them coming out saying it was wrong, that's not how we're supposed to be doing things on a large scale. That's what makes people not trust you. That's what makes somebody like Tyre Nichols be like, I'm scared to stop. Like, you just become terrified because you don't know if you're going to make it home that night, whether you're compliant or not. You don't know if you don't speak loud enough, if the cop is going to start screaming at you. You don't know. You are a young black man. You're not some little blonde white girl.
And, you know? And even like to your point, what we were saying, like, yeah, there's a difference in how people get treated a lot of times by cops, just traditionally in a standard way. But like, even the blonde white girls aren't safe.
Oh no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
there's anecdotal, but I remember there was one of those YouTube pranksters was like pretending to be a cop, like at Venice Beach or something like that, and he's like stopping to talk to the girls and stuff like that. And I remember like there was one clip where he's like trying to talk to this girl and she's so nervous. He's like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "You're a cop. Like, this is scary. Like, you're talking to me." And it's like that's the culture in America. Anybody, when you see the cop car come behind you, your legs get weak, you start getting them little beads of sweat. If you get pulled over,
Your heart's racing, you're tense, like
yeah, like for sure everybody's nervous when they get pulled over. I don't know if everybody thinks I might die if they get pulled over. But
or people are taught like conditioned like in, you know, we talk about like some black culture and black households, like you like this is a likelihood for you specifically in this situation. Like it's much bigger than just that moment of the stop. It's all of the conditioning and years of being told all this stuff and all of it, like seeing it in society, seeing the news, seeing these videos. In one moment, it's like you could be the next hashtag.
Every single black male, most likely, was told before they started driving what to do if you get pulled over.
Before they started walking.
You know what I mean? Like, put your hands right. Have your stuff out already. I was told, have your stuff on top of your car and just have your hands here.
Yeah. Like on the dashboard. Like don't,
like
no sudden movements. I also like, don't even go to the glove box because they might think you're reaching for your gun. I'm like, but the glove box has like the insurance shit in it, right? They're like, no.
Dan, if you go to your glove box and they shoot you, I'm blaming you. Like, literally, I was told, put your stuff on top of your car. And I remember telling somebody I knew, a white woman, about that. She started crying. She couldn't believe it. I'm like, yeah, my mom told me that when I was like 11, dude. Like,
that's
is
late.
The culture. You know what I mean? Like, this is the culture in America. And this isn't like, you know, just started in 2014.
No.
Police brutality
it didn't start with Rodney King either.
It's been going on for a very long time. And
slave patrols.
Yeah, like people in certain communities are conditioned to be like, look, those cops are looking to do something to you, looking for it, and ain't none of them your friend. You know, be respectful, do all these things, but there's also that, you know, not everybody's the same. Like some people are gonna freak out, you know. And especially if they're aggressive, like they're mean to you, like not everybody's going to react the same. You're terrified of them.
Yeah. Like,
and this video shows you why you should be terrified.
And like people have different reactions in anxiety. Like I'm an anxious wreck. And sometimes that manifests itself in me being very calm. And sometimes that manifests itself in me being like very frantic and tense. And like, it's definitely a harder thing to control, even in that kind of situation. But in that situation, that's death.
Yeah, 100%. You could end up being killed because of that.
Exactly. And so I think the last thing I'll do is sort of like a end cap on this is to say that we're going to go through this cycle again, unfortunately. We're going to have people defending the police and their actions and what they did. You're going to have people saying it was justified, all that stuff. But I mean, honestly, the stuff that I like, the legacy of Tyre Nichols is unfortunately going to be this video and all this stuff. When his mom was on TV and his like friends and family were talking about him, and I'll play like a little of that video as B-roll, but like, the real guy, he was, you know, a skateboarder. He liked art. He liked taking photos of things in Memphis and doing photography and videography. Like, just a guy, just living, just out there. I much rather just like think about this as his memory and not like those last. Yeah, he's
a hater.
He's getting in there right there, yeah. But like, I'd much rather have this as he's living, as he's, you know, enjoying himself, as the memory I leave you all with, rather than, of course, the video that shows some of the last like hours of his life. But yeah, like this, another life needlessly taken away because the biggest legal gang in America is not going to change and doesn't want to change and resists change. You're unpatriotic if you say that it needs to change.
Literally. And I'll end my part with this. This was tweeted by AOC May 27th, 2020. This was like right, on the heel, like right after everything happened with George Floyd. She said, I'll just say it. A lot of politicians are scared of the political power of the police, and that's why changes to hold them accountable for flagrant killings don't happen. That in itself is a scary problem. We shouldn't be intimidated out of holding people accountable for murder. And yeah, the police in this country are disproportionately powerful. And it's a legal gang, operates like a mafia.
There was the former mayor of New York City, before Eric Adams. The police were apparently like had stuff and were spying on his daughter. NYPD was. Stuff like that. So like 100% what AOC is saying, what you're emphasizing here, and it's a great point to emphasize, is true. A lot of politicians are afraid of the police. So yeah, imagine how hard it is to change when you just think of that perspective.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Like they know where everybody lives, and they have guns, and they have a code of silence. And like I always say, everybody's heard of the blue wall of silence. Everybody's heard of that. Like, it is a gang, and they operate like a mafia. They all protect each other. If you ask any cop, have you ever seen a police officer commit a crime? They're going to say, or do something wrong. They say, yeah. Ask them if they've ever arrested a police officer. I've seen videos of a cop drunk driving. The cop is just, hey, dude, let's just go home. Like, come on, you got a wife and kids. Like, so many different things like that. Like, they're corrupt. They don't play fair. They're diabolical in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, sadly, it's going to, the fight to change the policing system is hard. They're so good with distractions. And we have a whole, like, damn near half the country that's going to support what they do no matter what, generally. But I do remember when Trump was on the campaign trail, he did criticize one police killing. He was like, yeah, she made a mistake, but he never did it again.
Yeah, he went from that to when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So
literally,
again, like, I'll say this will be my last point on this before we move on to mass shootings. But like, it's marginally better that Donald Trump or like some Republican is not in the office, so that tonight when there's inevitable more police violence and protests and things that are going on, you don't have a president who is tacitly, cheering on the violence on the hands of the police in that sense. He's doing it, privately and inherently, like, through his actions as a president. And, like, has he done that through his entire history as a politician, Joe Biden? For sure. But, yeah, it's definitely different tone-wise. Like, Ron DeSantis, if he becomes president and we start having stuff like this, you're gonna get martial law if he wants to declare it, all right?
Yeah.
Because, the Antifa, BLM thugs and terrorists are going to come out and start looting because they want retribution. It's funny because it's like exactly how the cops think.